All right, buddy, I need you to watch over the farm. I got a mission that's out there. So I'm on a little bit of a mission today. I'm going deep into our forest because I want to set up some brand new trail cameras that I got so I can see sort of the wildlife activity. I just ordered a couple of new trail cameras and I'm really excited about them because they're actually solar powered, so they should be able to last out here in the middle of nowhere much longer than like your usual camera. So I figured I'd bring you guys along with me for the ride today. Ooh, would you look at that? That looks like some bear scat right there. I think that's some really old coyote scat right over there too. I think this might be actually the best spot to drop my first camera. I've got a creek down over there. Like I said, I saw some bear scat over there. I got coyote scat right here. And I got the fence in the farm right back there. So you can actually see our trees if you zoom way in over there. So I think this tree might just be right. There we go, we got our first camera added. Now I have always found that when you hide cameras like this, it's important to mark off the exact spot where you put it. One time a couple years back, I actually lost a trail camera because I set it up here and I went back to Washington, D.C. for like a couple of months, and I came back to check on the camera and I kind of remembered where I put it, but I never actually found it. So I think one day I might find like a camera like that sort of embedded into a tree somewhere when I'm an old man, and I'll have to check out that SD card. I'm gonna drop a pin, trail camera. I even like to take a photo, write some notes. And now I have a record of it right about here. Okay, and onward we go into the forest. It really is kind of remarkable walking in here. This is one of the rare times a year where it's not bad to come out here because it's not too buggy, it's not too snowy, it's not too thick with weeds. It's like just the right time to explore. And speaking of explore, so there's a couple of these scattered around our farm. They're like ancient garbage dumps for the farm. Like this canister, I don't even know what this is. Is it like a stove of some sort? It's been here forever. At some point I should probably bring the necessary apparatus to try to reclaim it, but this thing is heavy as all heck. I also kind of like it though, sort of a marker of ancient history. You know, as you look around at the trees in this part of the farm, you know, they're not that old. Like the oldest ones around here are like 100, 120 years old. That's because there was a time when most of Vermont was actually clear cut. Yeah, back in the 1800s, they just entirely clear cut the state. And they did it with the intention of raising sheep, and they did that for many years. But there's a lot of land here in Vermont that's just basically marginal pasture. Like if you look where I am right now, you can see that it's really swampy. And so because of that, as they focused on dairy at our farm, they probably just gave up on this land and let it grow in. Oh, here's another cool thing I wanted to show you guys. You see this? Some ancient farming equipment. Like it's some sort of plow, but I gotta admit, I've never even seen a plow like this before. I mean, it's been here for years and years and years. Like you can see where like it had some spikes for maybe aerating and something for tilling maybe. Here's another example, some old farm garbage. I think that's the remains of a stove of some sort. You know, from the best I can understand, our farm was established in the 1830s. You know, you think back then, there was no town dump, there was no waste removal service. They burned most of what they had, but some of the older things like metal scraps like this would just come out to an unused part of the pasture and they'd leave it there. I'd actually be very curious to see what I could unearth out here someday with like a metal detector of some sort. And then every so often in the middle of the forest, you come to another clearing. See more animal scat, I'm not even sure what that is. Maybe an old bear poop. This is probably another really good spot to drop a camera, so let's find a good tree. Now this should be a pretty good spot for the camera, right? I got this nice little marsh. I got the creek over there. I I got good sun exposure for the solar charger part. I often find that I get the most animal activity when like open space meets with forest. And this spot right here is a very interesting pocket because it's super marshy. Like you can see it. Look at that. I mean, I even have cattails growing here to a certain extent. So it's sort of why this will never make great pasture in this part of the farm, but it makes great wildlife habitat. And it's because of that I'm very thankful to have it. It always strikes me as really funny, the artificial nature of making YouTube videos and being out in a natural place like this. Like that shot there where you just see me walking across the stream. I actually had to walk across the stream, put the camera down, walk back over the stream, and then walk again. It's very artificial, but I don't know. That's what happens when you make YouTube videos, I guess. Ooh, hey, look at that. So you can look at this one, right? That's definitely some coyote scat. A lot of hair, fur in this one. If I had to guess, I bet it was like a coyote eating like a dead deer or something. Yeah, the more I get into being out here in the woods, the more I find I spend a lot of time looking at poop. Such is the life of a farmer, I guess. Speak of the devil, here's some more poop. Ooh, here's another good find. Big old bone. Looks like somebody's even gotten in there, eating out most of the marrow. That's something. Yeah, I find a lot of weird bones out here around the farm. I don't even know what that is. I guess it's probably some sort of deer bone. It almost looks a little too big and heavy to be a deer bone. Maybe a moose. Another little clearing spot. You know, it's actually a very hot day today. It's about 70 degrees. But I'm wearing my thick, long clothing just so I can get through brambles like that. Of course, it's got me sweating like you wouldn't believe. Or I guess you could believe because you can see it. It's interesting to me how the mood of the entire forest seems to change depending on the types of trees that are around. You know, down when I was over by the cedar swamp putting up that first camera, it had a vibe. Then as I got into some of our hardwoods, it had another feeling. And now I'm in like this area filled with pines. Even as you look at the ground, it feels different to walk on. Everything sounds different. It's pretty cool. See some sort of little animal burrow right down there. Yeah, these thorns can't defeat my pants. That's good. It'd be miserable if I was wearing something lighter. Be ripped to shreds. So you can see here, we're now coming towards the back barrier of our property. It's our neighbor's land, pretty much on the other side of that creek. Oh no. Well, that's brand new damage. So my neighbor lives over there. He built this bridge, I don't know, back in like the 1960s. He even had like a nice little chain suspension rope. You can actually see it here. Now the last time I was back here was probably, I don't know, October-ish. This wasn't like this, but unfortunately, these trees just came down over the winter. You can see, I mean, they're right on the bank of the brook. And just took out the bridge, or sort of took out the bridge. There was still something I wanted to show you guys back over there, so I gotta figure out a way to get across here. I don't know if I feel comfortable trying to walk across this bridge. I think I'm gonna scamper across these rocks. If I fall here, I only get a little wet. If I fall there, I can get a lot of wet. I want to get a photo of this. Next time I see my neighbor Fran, I'm going to show it to him. He's in his 80s now, so he doesn't get out much to these parts, but I'm sure he'd care. There you go. Another boundary marker for my farm. So that direction is neighbors. That direction is us. There's another old junk pile. I don't know if this is from our farm or a neighboring farm. But whoever put this here probably is long since gone. I mean, you can see ancient sap buckets, metal roofing. A can, some old tires. At some point, somebody was probably using this as target practice. See all the bullet holes? This is like the southwest corner of our property. My neighbor's property starts back here. Our property goes way, way out there. So I don't know which farm this came from, but long since gone. More bullet holes from target practice. That looks like a daggone Vermont postcard right there. Ah, here's another classic property marker right over here. See that? So like I was telling you earlier, back when Vermont was clear cut for sheep, stone wall fences like this were actually used as property markers and as a way to keep the sheep in place. And actually, when I talk about wanting to free up some forest for pasture, this area out here is definitely what I'm thinking about when it comes to good future pasture opportunity. Now, that's not to say I will clear cut the whole thing, but by thinning it out, it gives some of these trees a better chance to grow, and it creates an opportunity for me to seed this and have animals grazing again. You know, we humans have a remarkable propensity to create trash. Oh, wow, and speaking of which, I wanted to show you guys this one. This is cool. It's an old farm truck. I don't know if anybody has any guesses on the make or model, or even the age. My guess is kind of like, I don't know, the 40s or so was when it was made, and then who knows when it was put here. But yeah, some old farmer probably had this old truck and was like, I don't know what to do with it anymore, and just tossed it out here, and it has stayed ever since. I mean, it's been here longer than these trees were here. I will admit I'm a little surprised that they pushed it all the way up against the brook. By the time that they were getting rid of it, I'm sure they were sick of it and just wanted it to be there, but it's quite the ancient relic if you ask me. It's sort of like an old time capsule. Ooh, got a little wet there. Luckily got waterproof boots on. There was this one point where I wanted to jump across that rock over to there, and I sort of chickened out. Like I had this picture of myself doing like crazy parkour. Parkour! But then the thought of me landing wrong and blowing out my knee sort of had me approach it differently. Those are the decisions you make when you get older. Now, some of you might be wondering, why didn't I take Toby Dog with me on this little hike? And well, the answer is, I didn't want to bring him out here because I didn't think he'd like it very much. At this point, Toby gets really anxious when he's too far away from his farm. So he'd only probably want to walk about 100 yards before he wants to turn back. When he was a puppy, I would take him on walks all the time, but I think now that he's matured to be the master of the farm, he just doesn't like it. So the stones are the ancient way that they would keep their animals in place. And then the barbed wire is like the semi-modern way that they'd keep their animals in place. One of my big projects this summer is gonna be actually putting in a perimeter fence around our pasture. And when I do that, I'll be doing something even newer than this ancient barbed wire. I sure hope it lasts just as long. You know how I was saying that most of the trees were clear cut? Every once in a while you find a giant that's been here for centuries. That right there is one heck of a pine tree. There's actually a couple good pines in this spot. There's that one too. Trees like that are becoming very valuable these days with the way lumber prices are going. So at this point you can tell we're on like an old logging trail. Like you can even see like ancient tire grooves way back there. I'm a little ways off from being able to do a timber harvest myself here. And I really want to be selective. I love to leave some of these old giants as long as I possibly can, but I know that eventually with time they all end up falling down. So, you know, there is a value in harvesting them, and it can bring money to the farm too. So You got to sort of strike a balance in terms of how you think about your timbering activity. But actually, this is another area where I ultimately want to turn it into silvopasture. The soil's a little bit acidic over here, but it'd be fine for pasture. And it would be great for being able to have more animals on the farm if my whole growth and expansion plan builds up. Those right there are coyote tracks. And they look pretty fresh. And now we're back in the pasture, or at least the edges of the pasture. When I talk about clearing out a portion of the pasture to free up for more grazing, this is definitely a spot. In the fall, after I did my goose harvest, this is actually where I dumped the remains of the goose harvest. So we got old feathers, more old feathers. Pretty much right over here, it looks like somebody exploded a pillow factory. I still haven't been able to figure out a way to use the feathers for good. I just use it as fertilizer at this point. See, now it's going from super overgrown to probably grazable land. I actually think I want to drop one more trail camera right down here. There's some old apple trees that are right over here that always attract wildlife. What in the world is that? You guys see that patch of green over there? It's like some sort of tarp. I'm not quite sure what it is. How about that? It's an old bench. Huh. I wonder if somebody put it there as like a hunting stand, because this is a pretty good spot to sit and wait for animals. Mice have been using this as a nest, that's for sure. It's definitely started to rot through. I wonder who Tim is. I've actually been tracking the genealogical records of the Shaw family, the folks who owned this place for quite some time before we did. And to the best of my knowledge, there were no Shaws named Tim. Our farm was abandoned for quite some time, and so the idea that people were out here hunting is not shocking. You got the logging road right over there. Wow, that's crazy though. It's been sitting there and I never knew that that existed. The more and more I get into the farm, the more and more I love learning about everything about the land. I'm realizing that the farm isn't just like the farm proper. It's the pasture, it's the forest, it's the plants, it's the animals, it's everything working together, including even the history. At some point this summer, I'll probably come out here and bring a friend and we'll carry this back to the farm. But we're pretty far out and I don't feel like lugging it all the way back to the farm by myself. So stay tuned and I'll probably bring it back to the farm and use it somewhere around there.